Hey everyone, Zhonos here, back with a new Nine Kings video. That's right. Please, Sad Socket, please rework the King of Time, or at least some key cards. I'd like to go as fast as possible. This is my third attempt. I spent 40 minutes and then like 50 minutes on my last two attempts. So I'm going to try to go fast. Let's go. So I'm going to just jump right in. I love the faction. Nine Kings, a great game, and King of Time was a really cool addition. Here are my biggest complaints with the faction right now. There's a lot of anti-synergy and a lot of, I'm going to go over this soon, a lot of weak options for the faction. So let me just point out real quick, bullet fire. Orbiters and a bastion, bad synergy. Orbiters want to attack in a clump. The enemy already moves in a line towards you, but then the bastion sends them all away and all spread out. So that's really unfortunate. Orbiters share the buffs, or they kind of get buffs from units that are next to them, but the first unit you put down in the game steals brutal, so you can't actually make use of that cool interaction. Kind of feels bad. Amplifiers, there's like nothing to use amplifiers on except Wise, and you need a lot of amplifiers to actually make Wise useful, or go back in time like 30 plus years to really feel the difference of Wise. It really feels bad not having a buffing building in the faction. Warpers feel good with Adrenaline, but guess what? They cast their first wave of minions and then they go on cooldown. And because it's battle during battle and not like before battle, not like a normal buff, not like a tome, because it works like that, they have to wait 10 whole seconds. Even if their attack speed went up and up and up and up and up, you could have 100 stacks of brutal. It doesn't matter. You still wait 10 seconds. At times 3, it's close to 3 seconds. Of actual like real life seconds, but in-game seconds at speed 1, it's 10 seconds. You have to wait for the next wave. And then the next wave comes out and it recalculates it again. So it snapshots like its current attack speed. So it kind of feels bad that you give brutal / adrenaline for the warpers, but you still lose because it takes 10 seconds to summon the next wave. Orbiters, kind of feels bad that you don't have more than one enchantment to use for orbiters. I mean, it's okay, but and then reversion, there's nothing good to use reversion on in the King of Time. So it feels like King of Time has a lot of cool tools, and you're only using like 3 cards, and the rest are for other factions to play with, is what it feels like to me. So let me go over, here are the perks. I feel like the perks in King of Time are not good. You have Physicist, which is absolutely required. If you don't run Physicist times 4, you're going to have a bad time. Brutal, pretty much required. Of course, you can do without both of them, but it feels like playing in King difficulty is a nightmare. Even with no perks on King difficulty is really tough, actually. Try it sometime. Or do Lunatic. It's not fun. So we have Destructive. This is where the perks actually get debatably worse than the basic perks. I'd rather run normal perks that are shared with everybody than Destructive, because I have to get my Orbiter, and it's not a lot of damage. You start with 3 at level 1, so then you go from 3 to, well, 4 maybe. It's not good. So Manipulative is okay, but the problem is most of the battle is decided after the first volley for most units in the game. So maybe against King of Blood it's okay, although it won't affect the bombers. But like elves, their first volley, they're going to kill half your warpers. The ballista, their first volley, none of this first wave of attacks is affected by manipulative. So, you know, theoretically, if it even is doing minus 20% attack speed, it doesn't feel very big. And honestly, it says minus, but I bet it's the enemy. If the enemy has 1 attack speed, then they lose. They do the inverse, so they're still pretty high attack speed. So I don't know. Manipulative doesn't feel as good as it should. It still feels like you get murdered by the enemy scaling. Wise isn't very good either. Again, most of the general perks are better. It just takes so long to use Wise. You need like a whole field of amplifiers. My last video, you could see that. Invokers, or Invoker for Warpers. This wasn't that bad before. It wasn't that great. But now that the summons get half the HP, you're going from 12 HP for the warpers. The summons inherit half of that, so they have 6. And then you get 40% more from 6 to start the game with. So you could do the math. It's not very much. Horologist. Hourglasses go from 0.1 to 0.14. It still takes forever to fire the first round. It's really bad, and you don't have easy access to attack speed. Even with Wise, it'll take you 10 billion years to get there. Agile might as well not exist. Your Warper summons are the only ones that care about it, and Warper summons walk at 0.6. The Warper summoners are 1.2, but half the movement speed means the little minions are like crawling their way towards the enemy. So even with 40% more movement speed, they're still under 1 movement speed, which is like the average. And ideally, melee should have 1 or more. It's terrible. Don't take Agile. It's not worth it. But even worse than that is Exiler, because, I mean, someone needs to test this for me, because I just never see the difference. But pretty much when your army is engaged with the enemy army, the Bastion warping, which only happens once per unit, mind you, already goes to the maximum distance it's allowed to go. So, I mean, with Exiler, maybe if they get past and kill your army and then you warp them, then you might notice a difference. I've never seen a difference though. The card pool. I think there are some winners. We have Rewind up here, obviously busted broken. You never should have released it. A lot of fun though. You can go infinite with things like Offering. It's pretty fun to gamble. Might be too strong and might warp the faction, but it's fine. It's out in the world. It's too late. I wouldn't know how you would rework it without like ruining the fun of it. Adrenaline. This one, can we please rework, please? Adrenaline is also one of the best cards for this faction. Too bad both of them are bricks. You need a save rewind for the broken Royal Council when you get the broken decree, and you want to find null, so you can rewind 3 non-cards into actual useful cards. This faction, you don't have a lot of time to use rewind, because the normal use is to wait for like a really powerful card, typically the Rainbow Army, like Gigantify or something, but you're gonna die by the time you get there, or you should have won because you spent 30 years in the hyperbolic time chamber that is repeating the same 5 years at the beginning, years 1 through 5 roughly. Adrenaline is very good. I think it's way too good. You'll see later what I would suggest changing, because it just warps everything. About the warpers especially. Amplifier is better than I used to put it at. These are in ranks of my tier list like about a month ago. Amplifier is better than I thought, and it's almost entirely because of bugs. We'll go over those later. Orbiter is carrying the entire faction pretty much by itself at this point. It has all the health. It has all the damage. It can scale, has a nice gimmick. They're actually pretty solid. You'll see. They might even be better than I give them credit for, but they have their problems too. Don't get me wrong. They're middle, slightly above average, in my opinion. They're the top of B in the whole card ranking, if I remember correctly. If not, they should be. Regression, fun in other factions, not good in this faction. We can go over that more in the regression cards discussion. Warper, over-nerfed, still viable because of Adrenaline, but it's basically a snowball. You either have they're useless and utterly destroyed, or they have 10,000 minions that they summon, and then your game lags and crashes. Portal is really bad. It's only good because you get 4 free portals, and then you spend every other portal you play, as this faction at least, every other portal you ever play is to just, all the cards you're playing are putting down portals and then playing other utility cards from other factions to try to cheat out more cards, whether it be Offering or Overhaul or something, to try to make up for the fact that portal's really bad. As a card, it's -1. As far as I understand, at least, you're going back in time 2 years, so you can get 2 card rewards, but you're spending 3 portals to get there. So unless you could cheat levels, it's bad. At best, it's maybe a zero, like a nothing. You just get different cards. You just swap out portals for other cards. It's if you have buffing like every year, like a beacon or something, or you're farming Wise, then you're getting something by repeating years. But the problem is you spend all your resources trying to go back in time. You rarely have the ability to set up to then abuse the repeating of years. Hourglass is debatably worse because it takes 10 seconds to fire. You'll see more stats in a moment here. And then we have the base. The base is the worst base in the game by far. We'll see more about him later. Arguably, the base should be an F tier. I'm going to be honest, but it has its uses. All right, let's go next to the policies. Wormhole. Absolutely required. You must run it. I actually think it would be better if this didn't exist because it's just so required. But I understand and it is fun to have. So let's keep it in here. Devolve is slightly worse Abracadabra, and Abracadabra isn't that powerful in the first place. And in Devolve, they stick around. So you have more of them, but they're still able to fight. So I don't know if it's better than Abracadabra. Mega Minion. So the minions get half the attack and half the attack speed of their warping buddies. So Mega Minion looks like it would double it again. But guess what? It doesn't double. It doesn't double the attack speed. So even with Mega Minion, you're stealing half the DPS is what you would expect. So Mega Minion is garbage. I'm sorry. You have to run it, but there are so many better options. If all you have is Mega Minion, Devolve, and Big Bang, and you have Warpers, obviously you should take Mega Minion, but it's not good. And neither is Big Bang. I don't think the stuns stack, but you can get it like 4 times. Even if they did, it takes 10 seconds to do the first wave. You're dead. You're already dead by then. Loophole is really bad, but that's mostly because Bastion's really bad. If Bastion felt better to use, had like bigger AoE or did more stuff, then I could see Loophole being interesting, but it's still... Most units have way too much movement speed. So by the second half of the game... Oh, what the heck happened? This is how bad Loophole is. My computer freaked out. By the time you're in the second half of the game, all the enemy units move too fast. So Loophole doesn't really matter. Here, there are some amazing synergies. And the 2 best synergies are because of a bug. And I might be missing another one. Let me know in the comments down below. But amplifiers pass along Bunker's attack speed to units. Super busted. Especially because you can convert extra attack speed into damage. And guess what? Engineering. Engineering also works for some bizarre reason. Super busted. If those didn't work like that, then there'd be no general policies that feel really good. The best policy in my mind is supplies and outsourcing. And if those are your 2 best policies from the general pool, your faction is cooked. In my humble opinion. Then we have Feast. Feast will be better, but it's only helping the Orbiters. It really does not help the Warpers enough. They have 12 HP at level 1, and the summons get half that. And the summons are what you care about. Poison Thorns and Venom are actually pretty good, but the problem is it just doesn't matter. You usually can't if you're going to outlast them, it's because Adrenaline lets you summon 10,000 minions, and you're able to hold the tide. It's nothing to do with your ability to kill them, because Poison is a slow ticking kill time bomb. So at least you would win in stalemates that you might... No, but even then you probably wouldn't. It's okay. Rebirth, so you can make it to the prophecy year, because you're going to be losing a lot. Is actually not bad. Not great, though. Warhorns, it's not good. But it helps. It does increase the attack speed and damage of the summons, so that's something. We get Loan here. If Loan is useful, you're really cooked. And Leatherworks, again, so yeah, Agile is bad. It's only 40% more. Leatherworks is doubling. So at least then you would go to 1.2 movement speed. The same as the base Warper would be without Leatherworks. So then it matters because all units run in a single file, running like a cone, and then they kind of clump up in a line. And you're always facing on Rebellion, and they shoot in lines. The Orbiter, enemy Rebellion Orbiters also shoot in lines. And they'll typically one-shot your entire wave. If there's a couple of them, then they can just farm 1 or 1,000 minions. It doesn't matter. They'll kill them all in one wave. But if you can move fast enough, that you overwhelm them, then they stop shooting forward towards the conga line and they start having to aim to the side. Movement speed is useful. Leatherworks is sadly viable. It's not good at all, but it is viable. Overwork would be better if we had our own support building, but we have no support building. So it takes until either getting it from another king or declaring war against another king that has a support building. And also, this faction takes way too long to set up. So you don't have time to put down the support building because you're just going to die. Or you need to be going back in time again or leveling up your unit to get more immediate power. So it would be better. And then the rest, I might be missing some. Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so I did some calculations. Orbiter has pretty good effective HP, and the Warper is arguably the best in the game, especially if you give it the benefit of the doubt that, and I didn't do this for all the other units, if you say the Warper just gets brutal, because there's no other strategy to play around, Warper definitely has the best effective HP in the game. The problem is you're not fighting one-on-one with all the units. There are a lot of AoE units in the game, and your own Rebellion has AoE units. So I actually would put the Warper, I mean, it's probably an A or a B in tanking. It has really big bad counters like elves who will just shoot the summoning warpers, or anything with AoE, especially the orbiters, your own Rebellion, hard counters you. You have to have a lot of HP or a lot of steel coats to make it to the enemy orbiters. Orbiters and warpers. So orbiters have really good DPS, surprisingly. I was actually really surprised at how high they were in damage. And this is just purely level 1 and level 3 troops. And then we're assuming more or less circumstances. So the orbiters might be hitting 5 units every volley. And so that in the early years, it might only be a couple of units. Later years, I'm just going to give them 15. They might be hitting more. So they're really good DPS, surprisingly, ignoring everything else and just the base plots. And warpers, again, they do summon like hundreds and hundreds if you have brutal, specifically if you have brutal, like a lot of adrenaline stacks. But the minions are spending most of the time walking. And so there's only like so many of them actually attacking anything at any one particular time. And any faction that has AoE is going to be killing them before they ever get to those enemy units. So I just said like 10 versus like 100 at any particular time hitting an enemy. It's still awful. It's like the worst, among the worst, or definitely the worst DPS in the game. But I mean, maybe that's what it's a trade-off for being potentially one of the best tanks in the game, I guess. Let's look at the towers. Hourglass is really good. The problem is it takes 10 seconds to fire. So you'll die before then, typically. The base, let me move out of the way. The base right here, yeah, that's 28. And the Treant and the Warlord are worse. But guess what these two do that this doesn't do? This just is always its DPS, like for real. And I'm assuming he's hitting 5 people at once because, let's be real, it's a really small AoE. And you scatter them anyway, so it's not like you'll be able to like mass them into a single area to DPS them down. Can we do that? That'd be nice. It'd be nice with the warp moving in the same spot every time. So, and I talk about that right here. But like the Warlords and the Treants are so much better. The Treant I would actually put towards the top. It's not showing my cursor. Towards the top, up here by Castle. Because it stacks and every single circle also heals and every single circle speeds up and gets faster and faster and faster. Treant's one of the best bases in the game. Warlord is also really good because it could buff itself and buff other units. So the effective HP and the damage that it's giving to other units greatly outstrips its own base DPS. So no, the Bastion's awful. And even the Stronghold, I'm not calculating correctly because I'm not taking into account the number of Strongholds it can summon, just like the Treant. So yeah, no, can we please fix the Bastion? It's really bad. But let's start with Adrenaline. I just want to rework Adrenaline, please. So during battle, how about we try something that's just a more static buff? Maybe 50% attack speed and 50% less damage for 1 second. And then for every stack, you increase the duration. Or maybe just half a second. I don't know. Whatever balances out. Maybe less attack speed, maybe less damage reduction. Or if we can't do damage reduction, why don't we do something different? Like troop gains attack speed and HP every second, like the current one, but it has a cap for X seconds. I think the infinite scaling has just broken everything about this faction and potentially could bleed into other factions. It already somewhat does, but it's this faction specifically that must have Adrenaline, specifically through Brutal. It's destroying the Warpers as a card, especially. So we really need to stop the exponential nothing, all of a sudden 10 million attack speed. No, we need to stop this curve. It's really unhealthy for the game. Really bad for the Warpers especially because their attack speed equals how quickly they can summon copies of themselves. Now, Regression. I think there are no really good combos with Regression. The best is Orbiters and Warpers, giving them more levels to let them scale a little bit better because most things scale okay with levels, but the Warpers and the Orbiters don't actually get a lot of stats on level up. The Orbiters get a lot of crit, kind of, and they get average and everything else. So that would be the one I would actually level up. The Warpers seem like they'd be good, but they get less than the Orbiters in total stats, if I recall correctly. And even worse, the summons that they will summon get half of that. So Regression, it would only be giving you more unit count, but it takes 2 cards, Regression and something else, to level them back up. What else can you Regression? Your base? Hourglass? Like, there's really not much that you would want to Regression, especially because, like, this faction already has a lot of setup. So why do you want more, like, build up cards that, oh, this will pay off later, I promise? Like, everything is a build up card, and there's no room to use Regression in this faction. Is almost entirely for other factions. So what about if you use Regression on a level 1 plot? You get something out of it. I have some examples here. Maybe negative levels, maybe increase the level cap, or why don't we give at least some uses for other cards, like portals? What if we had Regression on a portal, even if it works as it is now? It has to be level 2 portal specifically. But what if we could stock more years to go back in time with Regression? Ideally, I'd want that to also work with my idea of increase, like being able to use Regression on a level 1 plot, basically. Or what about the Amplifier? I mean, there needs to be more synergy in the own faction, and there really isn't. There's nothing good to use Regression on in this faction. Troops, I would just make Orbiters DPS, please. Can we just stop making the Orbiter the tank DPS healer jungle? Like, it's doing everything. Just about. And the Warpers are in the trash bin because they are broken or awful, and there's no middle ground for them because of Adrenaline. Let's fix Adrenaline so it's not infinite exponential scaling. And let's just give the Orbiters the damage roll, and let's give the Warpers the tanking roll. And the Orbiters can still tank because they're spread out, and they would utilize buffs like Steel Coat really well, especially if you had multiple Orbiters around each other or other fun gimmicky things like that. And the Warpers can focus on being like cemeteries, a different form of cemetery, that you give buffs to the Warpers, and then the Warpers pass along the buffs to their little minions. Even if we keep the nerf that they have of getting half the stats, acceptable, it's fine. If we do that, can we please bump up the damage and hits per second so that it's more in line with what we would expect from the minions to actually have in DPS? This looks big, but remember, the minions get 25% of the total DPS of their main bodies. So please, let's fix Adrenaline, and then let's try to make the troops more normal and not this horrible warped thing where the Warpers are garbage, except, well, once the Adrenaline kicks in, then they might actually just overwhelm and brick my computer because it freezes. Meanwhile, Orbiters just do everything. I think that's really unhealthy, personally, and I'm sure you'd all agree. I would suggest Agile. Please, can we either give it way more movement speed so that my summoned Warper troops, those can actually rush in and get to the enemy before just getting mowed over. Because again, remember, you're fighting your own rebellion constantly. And your own rebellion hard counters the Warper minions because they fire in a line. And even worse, pretty often, they fire in a line and hit the summoners too, along with the minions. If we're going to keep Agile as movement speed, we need way more movement speed. I don't even know what it breaks in the game. Like, is there really anything? Does it make the goats unkillable? No. There's no amount of movement speed that would break anything, as far as I know. Let me know. But it needs way more, or some other effect, because as it stands, it's not good. Not at all. Exiler. What about something more fun? Because the distance doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Maybe more AoE, maybe more damage. I think it'd be fun if it stunned units upon a successful warp. That way, you'd actually could combo it with being able to warp more than once, and you could actually do something more useful, because it ain't damage that it's going to be doing. I also think Invoker could just be replaced. Let's just not worry about the summoner minions' health. That's so useless. I'd rather just take the general health perk that passes that along to the minions and does more. So why not portals when you lose a life, or something, anything else? Just all the other factions get like at least 2 different ways to generate cards, as far as I remember. maybe King of Greed is the only one who doesn't do that, but they have 1 million gold and free purchase at a shop. So they can get a lot of cards technically through that avenue. So something, please. I also suggest looking at some of the policies. I think Big Bang is a good place to start. Big Bang feels totally useless. What if it's just stunned everything on the whole field for 1 second? And that way, if you have multiple Big Bangs, it's multiple seconds. And, well, why would you want to stun your troops and enemy troops? Well, the Bastion gets to keep attacking. The Hourglass, which takes 10 years to fire, gets to charge up and actually maybe participate in the battle. And, you know, if you have adrenaline working, if you're going to keep adrenaline working the way it is, which I really don't recommend, then that gets time to you know, gain power. Something. Or maybe you just let the Hourglass hit right at the beginning of the battle. And maybe it gets more attacks if you have more Big Bang stacks. I don't know. Something that isn't what it is right now. I don't even know if the stun is stacks, by the way. Has anyone verified that? I really don't think it does. Devolve, I think it's fine, but maybe turn into slime so we can tell. Or, I don't know. It would be cool if the Bastion Rifts actually did something other than damage. If they were debuffing, that'd be really cool. Just saying. Now, let's get to the Amplifier. We need to investigate all the bugs and fix some of the quality of life and whatnot. I really feel like bunker and engineering should not work if Sharp Blades doesn't work. Like, what is the Amplifier? Is it a tower? If it's a tower, then Sharp Blades should work because it says towers and troops. Or maybe it says units. It's not always consistent with wording. But it currently is inconsistent. Why? And it really probably shouldn't work with bunker or engineering, but it does. And those who know about it, it's actually busted and overpowered. Also, I really wish it wasn't always percents from sword and shields, but I understand why. It's going to be really hard to like calculate, okay, this unit is under 100 HP, so we should give it the flat amount. Okay, and this other unit is over 100 HP, so it needs percent. If you could do that, that'd be really nice, though. I also think it has, let's just double check, prophecies, the holy perk, paladins, migration, and pillage. Like just check some of these other things for bugs. I feel like there have been some buggy interactions with these as well. Also really broken and powerful. I really wish level 4 Amplifier did something. Like, you could technically get it to work with like a temple or wise if you had 4 units on its sides. But I feel like it isn't always, so like say you have many amplifiers all around a single unit. I feel like it's not able to double dip on passing along buffs with higher level amplifiers, and I wish it did. Also, what? Please, can we let Gigantify pass it? If we're going to get rid of bunker and engineering, I would take Gigantify in his place. That'd be cool. And here are my other thoughts. Wormhole's probably too busted, as I mentioned earlier. Maybe. It's fine to keep. I'd rather the other policies be better, so they're actual competition. But it might also be way too much warping the whole game that you just have to pick it at higher difficulties. I also feel it feels bad that you have almost nothing. Like every single game is either warpers or orbiters. It always feels the same to me. You can't do an hourglass build because it's too slow. Hourglass is only good in endless, so like you really don't have very many options. I feel like it reminds me of another faction, that this one where there's a lot of utility cards that their own faction doesn't even need or use very much. And so, like, you're just playing pretty much the same strat every time. I also think Rewind was a mistake, but oops, cat's out of the bag now. And yeah, if you fix King of Time, I will make another video about King of Progress. I promise. I think they're the next to have some. You could see some problem cards: Reinforce, Precision, Converter, Concabulator, even Defender, which was way over nerfed. And now the Paladin gets like Unga Bunga health and damage for no reason, while the Defender cries in the corner. But we're talking about King of Time. I hope Sad Socket is seeing this, or someone tells them the contents of this video. But I do appreciate Sad Socket for making a really fun game in Nine Kings, and I really appreciate them continuing to update the game. I don't always agree with their direction. I and many players, I think, are confused with some of their decisions, Can we stop buffing trappers, please? If we get another buffer trap to buff, if you buff trappers one more time and it's not fixing how they function, we're all gonna have a conniption, I'm sure, because they're already overpowered as an enemy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you, Sad Sockets. Thank you, Nine Kings. A great game. There's just a few things I would recommend at least taking a look at. Either way, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe. Tell me down below if I'm just wrong or what you would recommend. Either way, I'll see y'all next time.